Hello and welcome to the Grand Dabbler YouTube channel. Today we are going to be ranking all of the original 151 generation Pokemon, and we are not including any Mega Evolutions or anything like that. We are just going to be picking the very originals with the original artwork. So let's go. So right off the bat, Bulbasaur is my favourite of the three starters, and so I'm going to be putting him into A. Ivysaur can go into D. Venusaur for me is an A. Charmander, when I was a kid, was definitely my favourite, but as I've gotten older, I've stopped using him as much. So I'm going to put him into C. You can go. You can go into D2. One of the better middle stage starters. Charizard, of course, has that 4 times rock weakness, but in terms of like design, is pretty great. I'm gonna put him in B. Squirtle, I definitely enjoy, but not my favourite starter. I'm gonna put you in E. Wartortle, I definitely enjoy. I'm gonna put him with the other mid stages. I think they're all very even. Blastoise, I'm gonna put in A. I think it's the best final stage in my opinion. But overall, my favourite line is the Bulbasaur line. Think gonna start quickly ranking a few of these. I absolutely love Caterpie. You can go and see Metapod E, Butterfree C. I don't like as much as Caterpie. You can go in D. Kakuna, first F, I think. Beedrill, I've always loved the design of. You can go in B. Pidgey, E. Pidgeotto. I've just never been very excited about Pidgeotto. I'm going to put it in F. Pidgeot is going to go into E. I think it probably is about on par with the rest of them. Rattata, I like Rattata. I'm going to put it into D. Raticate, I've never been huge on. I'm going to put it into H. Spearow, I don't like as much as Pidgey. I'm gonna put it in F with Pidgey. No, I'm not. I'm gonna put it in F with Pidgeotto even. Yeah. Pharaoh is kind of cool. F for Pharaoh, I suppose. Ekans, I've always quite liked just because of the fact that it's a snake and that's cool. So B. Arbok. Yeah, I like the fact that it has like it sort of has that the regional variant type things with the patterns on its chest, but it's never been a very strong Pokemon. I'm gonna give it an E. Chunky Pikachu. So this is my favourite version of Pikachu, but it's never been my favourite just because of how overused it is and everything. So I'm going to place it into, see, Raichu. Raichu's quite cool. I'm going to put it in D. Sandshrew I've always quite liked, but I very rarely ever use it in the games. I think you're going into E. Sandslash. I've never really liked the evolution. I think it's a bit boring for me in a way, so I'm going to put you in G. The Nidoking and Nidoqueen families, it's okay. I think I'm going to put the first and second stages into G. And then Nidoking and Nidoqueen are obviously very strong, but I've never had the most interesting designs in my opinion. I'm going to put them into D. Clefairy, G for me. Clefable, I've never liked the design of personally. I'm going to put you into H. Vulpix, very cool Pokemon. You can go with Chunky Pikachu in C. Ninetales, yeah, about the same I think for me. Jigglypuff is kind of cool, but is terrible in the games. F. Wigglytuff, probably one of my least favourite Pokemon, definitely from this generation. So I'm going to put it into I think. Zubat, I've always loved, especially in the later games when you can get Crobat, but in terms of Gen 1, I'd put it around a C. Golbat's never been my favourite. I certainly don't like it as much as the original Zubat design, so I'm going to put it into F. Oddish, it's okay. I'm going to put it into F. Gloom, I don't really know where to put Gloom. I don't think I've ever really used it in the games. I'm going to put it into H. Vileplume, again, yeah. Paris, I've always liked the concept of, with its, like, hosting mushrooms and things like that, so I'm going to put it into there. And Parasect is one of my favourite designs from this generation, but again, it's just not very good. Venonat, very cool. E for me. Venomoth, in terms of its design, is one of my favourites from this generation, but is not particularly strong in the games. I think I'm going to put it into a B. Diglett, yeah. D for Diglett, I think, for me. Dugtrio, I've never been a fan of. It's just 3 Digletts. H. This art of Meowth is pretty cool, but F for me. Persian. I like Persian. It's just a cat with a gem on its head, I suppose. E. Psyduck is, it's one that I'd never really used, but I always just liked how goofy it is. C for me. Golduck I've never particularly liked. I just don't think it fits with Psyduck. H for me. Where's this Machamp? Machamp's quite cool, but yeah, E. Mankey. Mankey. Where do I put Mankey? Again, one that I very rarely use, but I think it's kind of alright. F, I think, for me. Primeape. Yeah, I don't really like Primeape. H. Growlithe. One of the most simplest designs in the whole region, but very, very good Pokemon, I think. B for me. And Arcanine. I mean, it is essentially a legendary Pokemon in Gen 1, so. And its design is pretty cool. It's just a big Growlithe, I suppose, so. I think it's the first S tier. Yeah. Poliwhirl. I enjoy Poliwhirl. I'm going to put it into B. Poliwrath. No, sorry, that's Politoed. This is Poliwrath. I don't like it as much as Politoed. And you can go into F. I think it's just a Poliwrath, but just not as cool. Don't know. I don't like his eyes. Abra. Love Abra. It's gonna go into B. We have Alakazam. No, we don't. You're gonna go into, yeah, same as Abra. Alakazam. I don't like the design. Obviously, it's one of the strongest Pokemon in the whole region. You're gonna go into D. Stop firing through these. Machop. D. I quite like Machop. U. No, not for me. G. Bellsprout. Good Pokemon, I guess, but it's a bit basic. You can go. I don't like you. You can go into G. You're a bit cooler, but again, probably about the same as Bellsprout. You. This is a very good Pokemon, but I very rarely use it. I think C. Beast. You're going to go into A. Geodude. Yeah, it's okay. E. Golem. I don't like as much. No, Graveler even. Golem. I don't like as much as Graveler. Ponyta's cool. You can go into C. Rapidash. Bit boring design-wise, but cool Pokemon. Slowpoke. You can go into F. Slowbro. I've never really liked Slowbro. You can go into H. Magneton. Very cool. You can go into B. Magnezone. Not Magnezone. You're. I'm getting a few. No, Magnemite. This is Magneton. And you can go into D. Similar situation with Dugtrio. It's just 3 of the same Pokemon. Farfetch'd is okay. Dugtrio. I don't think I've ever used this in game, but it's kind of cool. F. Dugtrio, I've definitely never used, but I get it's fairly strong, but I think there's just better flying types in Gen 1, so I'm going to put you in H. Seal is just silly. Never used it. Never used it. Grimer. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm going to put you with the likes of Raichu and Alakazam, I think. Seems about right. Muck. I don't like Muck. I think it's a big downgrade from evolving. Shelter. Never used again. It's okay. Cloyster. Good Pokemon, but I think it's better than Shelter. Ghastly. Yeah, I like Gas. I like the whole line. Haunter. You can go into B, and Gengar is an S tier. Absolute beast. Onyx is okay. You can go into G. Drowsy. I've used a few times in playthroughs, but not the best. You can go into F. Hypno, I've never really liked. G. Krabby, I love all crab Pokemon, they're just so cool. Krabby and Kingler. Yeah, see. The Pokeballs. You're okay. I like you a lot less. It kind of looks like you've got a beard. And it's just weird for a Pokemon to look like it's got a beard. The eggs. Very underrated Pokemon in my opinion. I quite like Execute. And Executor's a bit weird. It's like an egg tree. Well, it's like a coconut tree, but it kind of looks like an egg tree. I'm gonna put you in E. Cubone. You're cool. You've got a set backstory. You're gonna go into C. Marowak, I think, is a downgrade. I've never been a huge fan. E. I always get these two mixed up. I think this is Hitmonlee. Oh, I quite like both of these. You can go into E. Big punchy boys. Lickitung. I'm sorry, but not for me. Coughing. I like its role in the anime. I don't think I've ever used it in game. I'm gonna put you in F. You're okay. I think you're a bit of a downgrade from Coughing. Rhyhorn, solid Pokemon. Very rarely use it, but again, it's okay. D. Sorry, that's Rhydon. This is Rhyhorn. You're quite cool, actually. I'm going to put you in a C. Chansey, I've always been quite a bit of a fan of. Obviously not very good to use in-game, but design-wise, it's quite cute and that. Tangela, you're kind of cool. C. Kangaskhan is a beast. You're going to go into A. Like you've got a little baby in your pouch. Horsey's design, I think, is one of my favourite. Like, it is just a seahorse, but there's a big difference from, like, seal, where it's just a seal. Like, seahorse is definitely a Pokemon, but it's kind of simplistic at the same time. You're going to go into A. Kingdra, you're cool. I don't think I've ever used you in game, but because I don't have any friends to trade with, but you can go into A. Cool design. Goldeen, it's okay. Seaking, I think, is a downgrade design-wise. Starmie, I get these confused. I think this is Starmie, isn't it? These are kind of cool. I think Staryu this is. I like it a bit better because it's just like 2 in 1, and I prefer the colour scheme. Mr. Mime. Super underrated Pokemon in my opinion. I always love to use this in game, even though it's not particularly good. You're going to go into A. Cyver's a great Pokemon. But again, the bug type is absolutely awful in Gen 1, so I'm going to put you into C. Jinx. Definitely never use this in game, because it comes too late into the games, I think. And it's not very strong from what I remember using of it. So you're going to go into H. Electabuzz. Yeah, you can go into E. Magmar. I've always liked a bit less than its electric friend, so you're going to go there. Heracross here. One of my favourite Pokemon ever, to be honest, but the bug type is so bad in this generation that you're not going to go into S, but you're going to get an A just for the design alone. Tauros, super underrated Pokemon again. I like you, you're going to go into B. Wow, Magikarp. What do we say about you? You are terrible, but you become the beast himself, so you can go into F. Gyarados, obviously one of the coolest Pokemon ever, in my opinion. I love its origins, how it's based off the old story about the fish that jumped over the waterfall, and definitely look into that. Very cool Pokemon. Lapras, great Pokemon. Even though I very rarely ever use it, but good. Ditto, you're the gimmick one. You're okay. You got some good Pokemon cards, and yeah, about the same as that, I think. Eevee, one of the mascots of the whole series. Mascot Eevee itself is okay, but I prefer a lot of its evolutions. You're going to go into E. And we start my favourite evolution, Vaporeon. B for me. Jolteon, okay, not as good as Vaporeon. Flareon, probably the most basic of them all. Probably my least favourite. Still okay. You're going to go in the same one as Eevee, I think. Kind of just looks like Eevee on fire. So Porygon. Never used it in game, but I guess the concept of it's kind of cool. Omanyte. Yeah, cool. I love all fossil Pokemon. I just like the concept. So yeah, you're a bit. I don't like the design. Why this design wise? I prefer its pre-evolution. So, yeah, Kabuto. There's always been something really creepy about his design that I've always loved, and so you're going to go into A. Kabutops, very cool. Just got literal big claws, so you're going to go into D. Yeah. Aerodactyl, one of the strongest Pokemon in Gen 1, I think, but doesn't have the best typing in the world. You're going to go into A. Snorlax. This is definitely up there with my favourites ever, to be honest. I just love his whole concept of him just like sleeping, being oblivious whilst everyone's trying to go about their business. So you're going to go there. The 3 legendary birds, you're going to go. Articuno is my favourite legendary bird. You're going to go into A. Zapdos, B for me. And my least favourite of the 3 would be Moltres. C seems about right. This line is obviously the pseudo legendary is very strong, but Dragonite I very rarely ever use. I don't like the design of it. I think it's a big downgrade from Dragonair. Dratini, very cool design. B, Dragonair. One of my favourite designs ever. But again, I just don't use it because of Dragonite, so A. Dragonite, F for me. I just don't like Dragonite. Mew. We're down to the last two, and we've got Mew or Mewtwo. Where do we place these? I think Mew is an A for me. Again, I like its concept that it's essentially like the cell of every Pokemon ever. Very cool, but there is definitely better. And finally, Mewtwo. Stats wise, I believe the strongest Pokemon in Generation 1. Very cool design. But I don't like it as much as a lot of the A tier, so I think you're going in B. Right. Yeah. This for me is the completed tier list of all of Generation 1. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you disagree with, what you agree with, what you would change. But I think that's me done. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, and today we will be dabbling in the world of football, and more specifically, a brand new created football team. I've picked Inglemel's Town to have the team because I just think it's a great tourist destination. If you're from England and Scotland and around the area, you will most likely know about this place. It's a nice cheap holiday. People tend to go for like a weekend there. It holds a nice amusement park type thing in Fantasy Island. There's a big outdoor market, which is one of the biggest in Europe, if not the biggest, I believe. And just a general good time, get some nice fish and chips and that. And I just thought it would be a really cool place to do a football team on. Let's get into the actual information about the team. These are the created kits I made for them. I did these manually with a piece of software called the Kit Basher, and I'll definitely get into that software more into detail one day. But right now, these kits are some of the nicest kits I think I've ever made using the software. I just love the contrast between the colours, the like browny red for the away or the third kit, and a bit on the away kit, and the goldy yellow and the black half colours. I just think are absolutely lovely. Um, the home kit is sponsored by Fantasy Island, which is the amusement park, and I have sponsored the away and third kits with EMR, which means East Midlands Railway. Now we'll get into that a bit later, but East Midlands Railway is the train that goes between Nottingham and Inglemells, and because of that, you tend to have a lot of visitors from in and around Nottingham, which is where I'm from, that go to Skegness and Inglemells and around. So the club's big fierce rivals would be Skegness Town, which is literally, as you see here, 8 minutes down the road, 3.7 miles, um, which is just down the coastline. The other team is Horncastle, which is a bit further out, you're heading more towards Nottinghamshire region, but Horncastle is located sort of in the middle of Lincolnshire. Um, and then the other rivals I have put Notts County and Basford, two teams located in Nottingham, and I've put it as a historic rivalry because obviously of the amount of people from Nottingham that travel to Inglemills, so I feel like there would be a bit of tension there. It's a bit of a local joke. The Brownsea Derby versus Skegness is because historically the actual sea around the area is not particularly pleasant to look at. Um, I would like if they was a real team. I'm assuming they would be starting at around tier 11, around the Lincolnshire Football League. So that's where I would put them if I was like adding them into like Football Manager or something. Um, they are located on the east coast of England, which, as you know, for people maybe in America or just anywhere else in the world really, that don't really know a lot about the map of the UK, that is where Inglemills is located. It's just on the east coast. Um, the local Butlins, which is the reason they get a lot of visitors, is they got like a big holiday camp, and that is the first Butlins to ever get put down within the UK in, I believe, like the 30s, around that area. The Jubilee Odyssey roller coaster is located in Fantasy Island and is the largest roller coaster of its kind in the world. So that's another reason people come, because it's just a very popular tourist destination within England and specifically the Midlands. The club would probably, because Inglemills is a tiny village, they would have to probably ground share with local rival Skegness Town at the Vertigo Stadium. Um, yeah, and that's just about everything. Going back to the badge, they are called. I've nicknamed them the Coasters because of obviously their connection with the theme park. Um, Obviously, being on the coast as well, they tend to have a lot of like seagulls and things. So I've incorporated that, but I'm really happy with this badge I've made. I think it came out the like I've been working on this for quite a while. Originally, it was just this bit in the center, but the way it came out with the shield and stuff, I think it just looks very clean, which is quite hard to get. And overall, this is a completely fictional club that I think should just exist. Yeah, thank you for watching. Um, Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you. Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, and today we'll be dabbling in the world of Doctor Who, and I'll be doing a bracket fights on all of the TV show incarnations of the legendary Doctor. I'm going to be referring to them by their number because I just think it makes everything a bit more simple. And let's just get into it. I'm going to be shuffling it a few times just to make it a bit more interesting. And whilst I'm doing this, let me know in the comments who your favourite Doctor is and who your least favourite Doctor is. Let's get into it. Matchup. So we have 11 against 8. I think for me, 8 didn't have enough time on screen, and the time he did have, I'm not a huge fan of. I know in terms of audio dramas, I know he's got a lot of great ones, but just based on the TV show, I'm going to go with 11. So we have 2 against 4, 2 very well loved Doctors from Classic Who. I think for me, you can't look past how much characteristic 4 put onto the Doctor, and his performance of the Doctor was emulated really ever since. Just very influential, so I'm going to go with 4. We have got 9 against 1, a very interesting matchup. Of course, 9 only had that one season and almost had the show cancelled for a second time, of course, until 10 stepped in, but obviously a great season, but you can't really look past the very first Doctor and how much influence this man had on the show. I'm going to give it to William Hartnell's first Doctor. Right, this is a very interesting one. We've got 12 against 5. So, for me, I think Peter Capaldi is the greatest actual actor to have played the Doctor. And I just think his writing wasn't particularly strong, which really drags him down a bit. 5, I think, is sort of the opposite, like he's a fine actor. I've actually met Peter Davison before at MCon in Nottingham, but that is obviously not going to have an effect on where I rank him. Personally, for me, we will look back at 12 in a few years' time and we will feel very nostalgic and want Peter Capaldi back. I'm going to select Peter. Peter's 12. So we have 11 against 4. This is a very difficult one because Matt Smith, for me, again, I grew up around David Tennant's era, and Matt Smith was my first new Doctor and was so very important for me. But having watched a lot of 4's episodes, you're gonna have to go 4, I think, even though Matt Smith did have some absolutely classic episodes. We have got William Hartnell's 1 against 12. Now this is going to be a very controversial one because I think for me, obviously, the standard of acting was very different in the 60s when this show was made, and it was only ever supposed to be like an educational thing for kids, and so you can't, it's hard to compare the actual actor's performance of the character because they just they are used for two very different purposes. But for me, I can't look past 12. Okay, so we've got a big one here. This is probably one of the hardest ones I'm going to have to pick, but for me, just based on how many episodes they have, and just, I think Peter Capaldi's an incredible actor, but again, he's just let down by his writing a bit at times, so I'm going to go with 4. We're now onto the other side of the bracket. We've got Jodie Whittaker against John Pertwee's 3. Obviously the Kung Fu Master himself against the first female Doctor. I'm not a huge fan of like the very new Who, as in the last few seasons. I just think the acting is just pretty atrocious. Not necessarily Jodie's fault, because the writing is also awful, but I'm going to go 3. We have got 8 against the Fugitive Doctor, which is a very interesting one. For me, again, the newer episodes aren't very good, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pick 7. We have 6 against 11. Sorry, 10. For me, David Tennant was the first Doctor, and I can't really overlook that. And again, 6 is one that has incredible audio dramas, but I've never personally listened to them, and so I'm going to go Doctor 10, David Tennant. So now we're into 3 against 7, which is a very interesting one, because they're 2 Doctors that you don't necessarily think of as the top, not for me anyway, but 2 very interesting portrayals of the character. I am going to go for this one, Doctor 3. I just think he's such a character. For this one, we've got David Tennant's 10 against the War Doctor. That is a very interesting lineup. Obviously, John Hurt, legendary actor, R.I.P., and his role in Doctor Who will never be forgotten. But for me, he just doesn't have enough screen time to put him above 10, so I'm going to go 10. So now we're into 3 against 10. We've got some classic Who against new Who, and I think some of the finest they have to offer, really. For this one, just again, I know it's a bit of a new bias towards your first Doctor, but I'm going to go David Tennant. And now this is a very important one. It's the final. Where do I even start with this? We've got the longest run in the history of the show. I think it was like 11 seasons, somewhere around there. Whereas obviously David Tennant had nowhere near that length, but you could argue like some of the episodes he had are just like modern masterpieces, whereas obviously back in those days of the 70s, the budget was nowhere near, and because of that, a lot of the sets and things suffered for that, and that's what gave Doctor Who the silly name. But if you're looking at him as an actor, as just like a crazy guy that just was born to play the Doctor, I am gonna have to go Doctor 4. So there we have it. There is my winner. Let's get this off. Okay, so we have Doctor 4 as taking the crown as the top dog. Let me know in the comments who your favourite Doctor is, and thank you for watching. to the Grand Dabbler, and today we will be dabbling in the world of Pokemon cards, and more specifically the Yuka Mori illustrated cards, best known for his work doing the clay animation cards that you tend to see in a lot of sets. He's been working on Pokemon illustration since Neo Discovery, and has illustrated over 185 cards to date, including reprints of classic sets. Today we're going to do a little opening. I've bought a bunch of cards off of Magic Madhouse, and today I'm going to be issuing a little challenge. I don't know if it's been done before, potentially, knowing how popular Pokemon cards are, but the challenge is I want to see every single card illustrated by Yuka Mori. Now, why specifically his cards? Personally, the clay animation is just my favourite part of the whole TCG, and I absolutely love just opening packs and finding these in them, even if they're just common cards. So I just thought, I'm never gonna collect every Pokemon card, it's just an unrealistic task at this point, so I thought, why don't I just collect every card from Yuka Mori? It seems a lot more manageable, and just, I really can't get over how nice these cards look. I'm going to be sleeving all of these, because even though they're commons, they just look so nice. These are the Spinarak from the new Pokemon Go set, the latest to date. And I just wanted to go over all the ones I've purchased so far. These are all newer cards. I'll be getting into classic ones. This Sizzlipede, absolutely incredible card. Cast form here, Sunny form. Just the clay and the realistic backgrounds just make these cards stand out so much. I've also got reverses for a lot of the cards. My intention is to collect every single one of the cards, including all the reverses. I seem to have bought 2 Clobberpusses. Got reverse Woobat, normal Woobat. This is one of my favourites, this Snom, just on a real bark. Just the contrast between the Pokemon and the background is just absolutely stunning. I hope this camera can do all of these cards justice, because I just think they're wonderful. Got Wormadam. This Staryu is a classic for me, just like the Staryu in the rock pool. Shieldon. And finally a reverse hollow Shieldon. Why should you collect these? I just think it's such an interesting task, and I know Pokemon community is absolutely massive, so I'm guessing that someone's done this before, but if you happen to be watching this and you want to start a collection, I would definitely recommend the Yuka Mori challenge if you like Pokemon. Thank you for watching. Just a very quick update here. I have given all of these cards a sleeve from the Astral Radius Elite Trainer box, Astral Radiance even Elite Trainer box, and I gave them this just because I think these are the nicest sleeves I own at the moment, and so I just wanted to go through them. I think these sleeves give these cards an extra layer of texture, which just make them look even cleaner. Don't know, I can't say more good stuff about this guy. If you see that tiny little illustration thing in the corner that says Yuka Mori, you know you're in for a good time, I think. Just all of his cards are just incredible. Yeah, that's it for the little update. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. to the Grand Dabbler, and today we will be dabbling in the world of Disney Plus Pixar films. A very interesting topic, as I've seen the majority of them, maybe not a lot of the earlier ones, but certainly towards the end. I definitely can have a say on it, so let's get into it. So, Snow White, obviously classic, but where does it rank in this list? For me, it's a C. Pinocchio, good film. Again, we've all listened to, we've all watched a Pinocchio film. This one's a decent one. I'm going to give it a B. Dumbo, I've never been huge on Dumbo personally. I think I'm going to give it a D. Bambi's okay. C for me. Skip. We have Cinderella. Not my sort of thing, personally. D. After that, we have Alice in Wonderland. Great story. Classic. I'm going to give it a B. After that, we have Peter Pan. Peter Pan's fine. It's a middling film for me. Not too great, not too bad. Lady and the Tramp. Not for me. Got the first F. We have 101 Dalmatians, which I watched when I was little, and I think it's pretty good. I wouldn't give it an A, probably a B is more than enough. We've got Jungle Book, just an absolute classic, really. I think I'm going to have to give it an S. Really, just legendary film by now. We have Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is one of them films that I'm sure everyone's watched. Is it fantastic? I think so. I'm going to give it an A. Next up for me, I have. It's a little while before I've seen the next one, which is Little Mermaid. Okay film, not amazing for me. I'm going to give it a C. Seems about right. Beauty and the Beast. Okay. The animated version of it, I think, is pretty good. I think they did a good job with the live action version recently, but I am going to give this a B. We have Aladdin, one that everyone seems to love except me. Like, I think it's fine, but I think this gets way too much credit. I'm going to give it a C. Next up, we have Lion King. Again, this is another one that just absolutely everyone seems to love. He had an awful live action film recently, which I think, obviously, we're just rating the originals. I've never been huge on Lion King, to be honest. I'm gonna give it a D. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Another one I remember just watching constantly as a kid. I don't remember ever loving it, but I liked the characters, I think. I can't really remember when I was 5 watching this film, but I'm gonna give it a C. Tarzan. Brendan Fraser, I think, did a good job in the live action version of this to bring the character to life. I've always liked Tarzan. I'm going to give it an A. I did watch that, but the dinosaur film, but I don't remember it, so I'm not going to rank it. For me, Lilo and Stitch is an S. I just absolutely remember watching this film to death, just like destroying my DVD player over this film. Just, I don't know why. Just the bright colours maybe attracted me. Chicken Little is another one I just watched to absolute death, and I'm going to give it an A. I know it's a bit of a controversial one because I know a lot of people really don't like that film, but I just think it's pretty great and it's got all the meme-worthy material. Meet the Robinsons, I think, is a really underrated one. I'm going to give this an A. It was around this time when all these films were coming out that I was getting into about 8 or 9. I was really starting to take notice of films. So, quite important. Bolt, I never liked Bolt. I think I'm going to give it an F, to be honest. Never watched. I didn't watch that version of Winnie the Pooh. Tangled. Good. It was an okay telling. I think it's a fine film. C for me. I think it's just middling, if anything. Wreck It Ralph, in my mind, an absolute classic. I absolutely love it, but the second one really let the franchise down, I think. We have a bit of a controversial one. I've never fully watched Frozen, so I'm not going to rank it on here. So on to Big Hero 6, which is maybe my favourite Disney Pixar film. So it's definitely an S for me. Moana, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Frozen 2. Wreck-It Ralph 2, straight away I'm just going to give an F. Frozen 2 I never watched. Encanto, one of the latest ones, it's fine. I think recent films have started to go downhill a bit from Pixar. I think they're okay, but they've just found a formula and they're sticking with it. So I'm gonna give it a D. Raya was quite surprising. I was expecting to not really like this. I watched it in the cinema with my partner, and I came out of the cinema really enjoying it. Maybe the fact that I saw it in the cinema made it better in my mind, but I'm actually going to give it a B. Toy Story, definitely a classic. I think it has to go in S for me. Just incredible film for a children. And I want my child in the future to definitely be raised on a bit of Toy Story. Absolute classic. A Bug's Life, another one. Where do you start with this one? I'm just going to give it an A. It's got some fun games on the PS2 and that back in the day as well, which definitely adds to it, but A Bug's Life is a fine film. Toy Story 2, for me, is not as good as the first, but I think the whole franchise of Toy Story is incredible, including Lightyear that recently just came out on Disney Plus. I definitely recommend watching that if you can, but I'm going to give it an A. So we're up to right. I said Big Hero 6 was one of my favourites. Monsters Inc. is just the top one for me. I think it defines the whole of these films. I can't say enough about it really. So I think that's going to be number one. Finding Nemo again, just an instant classic. S for me. Incredibles. I watched this film so much as a kid, I'm just going to have to give it an S as well. We're on a good run here, I think. Cars, it's a good film. It's got a lot of memes come with it. What would I give this in terms of this ranking? I think it's about on par with Raya and 101 Dalmatians. I'm going to put it in B. Ratatouille, around that era where I just absolutely loved films and couldn't get enough, and Ratatouille was one of them films that I just watched to death, so S for me. Wall-E, we're on such a good run here. Another S. Wall-E is just a class. I actually watched that the other day, funnily enough, which is what inspired me to do this tier list. Up, up, up. I think for me it has to be again an A or an S. Just another incredible film. It's got a lovely story to it, very teary. I'm going to give it, yeah, I'm going to go with another S. We have Toy Story 3, which I think is about on par with 2 for me. Very good again. I'm going to give it a 3. Sorry, I'm going to give it an A. Cars 2, nowhere near as good as the original Cars. I'm going to give it a D. We've got Brave. Brave is a fine film. I wouldn't rank it any higher than a C, I don't think. Next up we have Monsters University, which is probably the biggest downgrade on this whole list. I would give it a D. I just didn't really enjoy that film at all, and it was the first follow-up from Monsters Inc., which for me is just the best film in this whole list, so yeah, I think that also plays a factor into it getting a D. We've got Finding Dory, another one. It's okay, but a big downgrade from the original. C for me. Good Dinosaurs, a nice film. Where would I rank this? I'm gonna give this a. I'm gonna give it a B. Actually, I quite enjoyed that film. Cars 3 is just an F. I should have labelled this one L. Or I should have just had a different section, called it L, and just given it to Cars 3. What a terrible film. We've got Incredibles 2. I don't think I even watched all the way through this one. We're on a bit of a down streak at the moment. I'm going to give this one an F2. Not as bad as Cars. I'm just going to put Cars right there. Toy Story 4. Again, there's this trend where the follow-up's a bit of a downgrade from the original. I really like Toy Story 4, but for me it's not as good as 2 or 3, so I'm going to put it in B category, which is still good. Inside Out's a really solid film. I wouldn't rank it amongst the greats, but certainly one of the better ones of recent, so I'm going to give it a B. We've got Soul. Soul was okay. Would I rank it? Yeah, I think C is fine for Soul. I think it's on about the same quality as Finding Dory, Brave, and all of them, so yeah, that seems about right for me. We've got 2 more left to do. We have Luca. Where would Luca go? For me, I think Luca's a big. It just seems like a big advertisement for that motorcycle company, like Italian brand. So I think that's just a bit weird and takes some away from the film. It's a fine, it's an okay film. I don't think it's as good as Brave or anything like that. So I'm going to give it a D. And the latest one, and the last one to rank, which is Turning Red. It's got a really cool message about obviously girls accepting periods and things like that. I think it's a very interesting film. Do I think it's as good as the likes of Toy Story 4? Not really. I think I'm gonna put this one around the same level as Luca. In fact, whilst we're here, I'm gonna put Monsters University in F tier because I just don't really enjoy it, and Turning Red doesn't. It feels wrong being in the same category as these sort of films. They just aren't very good for me. Where would you rank all of these films? Let me know what is your favourite Disney plus Pixar film and what is your least favourite. And thanks for watching. Back to the Grand Dabbler, and today we'll be seeing who is the best pop punk band in a bracket fight. Pop punk, massive genre I've listened to for probably the most of any genre of music. Just some absolutely gigantic bands in here. Let's get on with it. We have straight away Blink-182 against the Japanese band One OK Rock. They're pretty cool, One OK Rock, but you can't look past Blink-182 and the legendary discography they have, so I'm going to go Blink. We have Cobra Starship against too familiar with. I know a few of their songs. I'm going to go Cobra Starship on this one. We've got Good Charlotte against Boys Like Girls. Of course, classic 2000s pop punk. Giant songs, The Anthem, stuff like that. I'm going to go Good Charlotte on this one. We've got Paramore against Son of Dork that I've never listened to, so Paramore it is. We've got Chunk, No Captain Chunk, one of the best bands ever, against the best band names ever even, against The Academy Is. I like The Academy Is more, I believe. We've got Rome against Bowling for Soup. And you go Bowling for Soup, classic band, massive discography. Wow, we've got the All American Rejects against Bring Me the Horizon. That I would not really consider a pop punk band at all. Like there was deathcore back in their day. I guess maybe now, by the literal sense, they're a rock band that are played on pop radio. But I'm not going to consider Bring Me the Horizon a band in this genre. I'm just going to go All American Rejects, which incredible band. We are the In Crowd against Pierce the Veil. Veil for me. Right, we've got Blink-182 against Cobra Starship. It has to be Blink-182. Yeah. Good Charlotte had a lot of great input in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, but honestly I've not really liked anything they've put out in a while, as opposed to Paramore have After Laughter, which is a fantastic record. I'm going to go Paramore. We've got The Academy Is against Bowling for Soup. I'm going to go Bowling for Soup on this one. One of the first pop punk bands I ever listened to. We've got the All American Rejects against Pierce the Veil. All American Rejects for me. We've got Blink-182 against Paramore, which is some of the biggest bands in the entire genre. Blink-182 for me. Right, we've got Bowling for Soup against the All American Rejects. I absolutely love the All American Rejects. Bowling for Soup have some great songs, but so that's what we'll pick. And to go into the final, we have Blink-182 against the All American Rejects. I think, as much as I like All American Rejects, Blink-182's discography you just really can't look past. So Blink for me. And now we're on to the other side of the bracket. We have Alkaline Trio against Sideboard. I literally can't. I don't know how to say the name of that band. Not listen to them, so I'm going to go Alkaline Trio, great band. Oh. Okay, whatever, I would have put Coheed and Cambria there, but Billy Talent's another good band anyway. We've got the main against the Ataris. Ataris for me. Cute is what we aim for against water parks. Cute is what we aim for. I've never got into water parks personally. Stand Atlantic against Waster, I believe is how you say that band. I'm gonna go Stand Atlantic. We've got Jimmy Eat World against The Offspring. Two ginormous bands. Jimmy Eat World for me, just classic after classic. So we've got With Confidence against Panic at the Disco. It's gonna have to be Panic at the Disco for me. We've got Mayday Parade against Motion City Soundtrack. Mayday Parade, another band I've never really got into, even though they're very similar to a lot of bands I listen to, but Motion City Soundtrack for me, just fantastic. Great to listen to on in a live setting as well. So we've got Alkaline Trio against Billy Talent. I'm going to go Alkaline Trio on this one. We've got the Ataris against Cute is what we aim for. I am going to go the Ataris on this one. We've got Stand Atlantic against Jimmy Eat World. Jimmy Eat World for me. And Panic at the Disco against Motion City Soundtrack. Now this is going to be a controversial one, but I've never loved Panic at the Disco. Their first few albums are pretty good, but I've not liked anything they put out in a very long time. So for me it's Motion City Soundtrack going through to the next round. We've got Alkaline Trio against the Ataris. I'm going to go with the Trio on this one. We have Jimmy Eat World in the semi-finals against Motion City Soundtrack. I am going to go for Motion City Soundtrack. So we have Alkaline Trio against Motion City Soundtrack. I'm going to go MCS. Now we have Blink-182 against Motion City Soundtrack. Now, just before I say this, I think there's a few bands we seem to be missing from here, like We're a Fall Out Boy. You know, I didn't make this list, but if the person who made it happened to be watching, where is Fall Out Boy? But we're into this final, and it's Blink-182 against Motion City Soundtrack. As much as I love Motion City Soundtrack, I've said that so many times now, there's just night and day between, first of all, the size of the band and the amount of great output they've put out. So I'm just gonna have to go to It Is. Yeah, let me know what you think about this, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to my predictions for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Let's just get straight into it. For starters, I think you can't really look past the Netherlands to take first spot. I think second place is going to be, I'm personally going to go for Senegal, considering they've just come back off the African Cup of Nations win. I'm going to put Ecuador in third and Qatar in fourth. I just don't see Qatar having the quality as host to get to the next round, but you never know. To Group B, we've got my country, England, Iran, USA and Wales. Personally, I think England is going to have too much quality to not finish top, so I'm going to put England in first. Again, I
think really anyone could take second spot in this group. They're all, I think, very similar quality-wise, but I'm going to give it to the USA just because I think they do have some really good standout players like Pulisic. Um, in third place, I think I'm going to go for Iran, and then I'm going to go for Wales. C is a really interesting one. Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. Of course, Poland still with Lewandowski, so that's going to be a big factor, I think. Um, I think Argentina will finish first. Messi's last World Cup, probably. I'm going to give second place to Poland just on the quality difference of Lewandowski. I think he can just change the game between them and Mexico, and go Mexico in third and Saudi Arabia in fourth. Sorry, Saudi Arabia in fourth. But to be honest, I can see Mexico maybe sneaking that second spot. I'm going to go for a bit of a shock with this one. I'm going to go Denmark to finish top because I think obviously France usually good at World Cups, but do have a meltdown in them, and I think this might be not a great group stage for them. I can see them losing to Denmark, so I'm going to go France in second. I'm going to go for Tunisia in third and Australia in fourth. Got a bit of a group of death for Japan and Costa Rica in this one because you can't really see them sneaking second past Spain or Germany. I personally think Germany are going to take top spot with Spain in second. I would like to see Japan get that third spot, but I don't think there's much quality difference between these two countries. Group F, we have Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. Really see Canada progress, their first World Cup in a very long time. Obviously, Croatia have the experience of Modric and all of those guys. Belgium just have too much quality, I think, to miss out. So I'm going to go for Belgium at the top. Although I'm going to go for a Canada to sneak second spot. I think Croatia and then Morocco. Although you could very easily see Croatia finishing at least second in this group. In Group G, we have Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Just Brazil, I would be very shocked if they don't make it in first place in this group. You can really see any of these teams taking second spot. I'm going to personally give it to Cameroon. I can see Cameroon having a good World Cup and maybe sneaking second place. I'm going to go for Switzerland in third and Serbia in fourth. In Group H, we have Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea Republic. I'm going to go for Uruguay to take the top spot. Again, I can see them nicking something off Portugal, who I think will finish second. And I think Ghana will take third spot, completing our group stages. So now we're on to the round of 16. We have Netherlands against USA. We'll see Argentina against France, semi-finals, England against Senegal, Denmark against Poland, Germany against Canada, Brazil against Portugal, Belgium against Spain, and Uruguay against Cameroon. Some really interesting matchups in the round of 16. We have Netherlands and USA. Ultimately, Holland are always going to have just a bit more, I think. I'm going to go Holland in this one, or the Netherlands. We have Argentina against France. Two of some of the favourites to probably win the whole tournament going into it. I'm going to personally give this one to Argentina. I think France don't have a great World Cup. I can just see it happening. We have England against Senegal. Whilst this is no easy game for England, I just can't see them losing to Senegal personally. We have Denmark against Poland. Personally, I can see Lewandowski being the difference maker here. and I think he's going to send Poland through to the quarterfinals. We have Germany against Canada. Very interesting matchup. I do like that Canada are at this World Cup, but I just don't think they're going to have nowhere near the quality to outdo Germany. I just think they would be too strong for them on the day, but a really good World Cup from Canada. We have Brazil against Portugal, two more of potential favourites to win the trophy. I can personally see Brazil nicking this one on the day, but it would be very close matchup, I think. Again, two
Belgium
very
against
strong
Spain.
nations. I can personally see Spain taking this one. And the last round of 16 game is between Uruguay and Cameroon. And I think, again, Cameroon are going to have a good World Cup and maybe get to the round of 16. But I think Uruguay will have just that bit more than them on the day. So that concludes our round of 16. The quarterfinals are looking like this. We have Netherlands against Argentina, Germany against Brazil, England against Poland, and Spain against Uruguay. Next up is Germany against Brazil, two powerhouses of world football, and I can see this going anyway. I can see Germany getting to the semis, I can see Brazil going there, but I think for the sake of this prediction, I'm going to put Brazil into the semi-final to set up a South American derby in the semis. We have England against Poland. I think Poland will have a really good run this World Cup, but I personally see England taking this game. I just think they have a stronger team overall, even though obviously Lewandowski could cause us a lot of problems in this match. And the last World Cup quarter-final is between Spain and Uruguay, and I can see something very interesting happening here. I can see a potential upset from Uruguay in this match, and I'm going to give it to Uruguay to go into the semi-finals of the FIFA World Cup. So we're into the semi-finals now, and we have Argentina against Brazil. Obviously, probably the biggest derby in the whole of world football. I think two very even teams on paper, but I can see Brazil taking this one. So in our other semi-final, we have England against Uruguay, who have done really well to make it that far if they do. But I think overall their run is going to end, and we're going to have a Brazil-England final. So that sets up a potential final between Brazil and England, South America and Europe. And to be honest, I could see Brazil taking this one in the final just because of the inexperience of the England squad. It's a very young squad with tons of quality and I think potential for the future. But I think right now I can see Brazil stepping up and winning the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, and today we will be dabbling in the world of unboxings, and more specifically, one of the reasons I decided to make this channel was to sort of show off my hobbies and what I'm personally interested in, and today I'm going to show you an unboxing on one of my main hobbies, which is collecting dice. I collect dice of all different shapes and sizes, mainly sort of D&D dice, because I just think they look the coolest. And let's see what we have today. I have no idea. Well, I've ordered an absolute bunch of these, so I don't know which one this is. So we'll just see what they look like and what company they're from and all that. Let's have a look. It's got a nice little packet on it with a nice sticker, keeping it together. Oh, torn the whole packaging. I don't think you're supposed to do that. Ooh. And what we have here is, I don't know how clearly you can see that because the dice are sort of black and white, but I think they look absolutely lovely. This is the Bloodsucker dice set from, what company is this? The card. Valkyrie RPG. I believe this cost me about £11 or something like that, which is pretty decent for a nice metal set like this. And they've even gone out their way to give me a free D20, which looks absolutely lovely too. I couldn't say what set this is from, but looking at that, that is another lovely addition. Let's go and get this open. I'm so terrible at opening these boxes. Rip all the packaging. Okay. Here they are all individually. The 8 there. The extended die there. This set is, I think, maybe one of my favourite sets so far. Got your D20. Just I know you won't be able to feel it, but the actual texture of these dice are absolutely incredible. I'm going to get my nice little dice box out and place them. I always forget which ones go where. Yeah, I'm just going to place them all in and I'll show you when it's all done. So unfortunately the little dice holder thing I have doesn't seem to fit them perfectly, but you can get a general gist of how they look from the black background. And this is a little better close up on the 3D20. See, it's got like little glitter inside that makes it look lovely. This is the set that it is. It's the Bloodsucker set from Valkyrie RPG. Here is the back of the card. In case you intend to buy from this company. I'm definitely not sponsored by this company anyway. Definitely love to be though after this. Here's a little close up on the die. If you collect dice, let me know how your collection's going. Maybe send me some pictures. Let me know if you collect anything that isn't die. And just generally let me know what's going on. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
guys, and we are back again with a new tier list. Today we are going to go through the Generation 2 Pokemon. I have made another video for the first generation. If you haven't watched that, I definitely recommend it. And let's just get into it. So we have Chikorita. To be honest, it's a quite hated Pokemon, but I quite enjoy it. We have Bayleaf, just a bigger version of Chikorita. I think it's kind of cool. I'm going to give it an A. And Meganium, I probably like it a bit less than them two. I'm going to give it a B. Next we're on to the Cyndaquil line. Cyndaquil, cool Pokemon, but to be honest, I don't like it as much as the Chikorita line. I'm going to put in C. Yeah, I just don't enjoy this as much as the original one. And Typhlosion, pretty cool Pokemon. I'm going to put it in A. Next up is the Totodile line. Personally, for me, probably my favourite starters from this generation. I'm going to put it in S. I'm going to put in B. Okay, middle stage, but I don't think I like it as much as the Chikorita line's middle stage. And we have Feraligatr, pretty cool Pokemon. I'm going to put it in A. Next we have Sentret, the early rodent Pokemon. Probably one of my favourite early rodent Pokemon from the games. I'm going to put it into B. Next we have Forit, pretty okay Pokemon, I guess. Not particularly strong in the games, but I enjoy its design. It's going to be a B. Now this one might surprise some people, but I really love the Hoot Hoot line. For me, Hoot Hoot and Noctowl are both S tier. Next we have Ladybur, whatever you call it. This is going to be a C for me. Early game bug is okay. I always forget the name of, but I don't even think this looks like a Pokemon to me. It features are too human-like, if that makes sense. Like, you have some Pokemon that are intended to look like humans, but this is just kind of weird because it's like a bug. So I'm going to give it a D. Next we have Spinarak and Ariados. Spinarak I quite enjoy, probably my favourite early bug Pokemon from the games. And next up we have Ariados. Again, probably another surprising one, but I absolutely love Ariados, one of my favourite Pokemon, and it's going to go into S tier. So, of course, we have Crobat, who was added onto the Zubat line, and a Pokemon that I always go back to and absolutely love. In every game it's in, I tend to use it. I'm going to have to give it an S. Next up we have Chinchou, really cool typing of the electric and water. I'm going to give it an A. I do use this Pokemon quite a lot in the games. And Lantern, I believe you called. I think this is a bit of a downgrade from the evolution. I'm going to give it a C. Next up we have Pichu. You're okay, I'm going to put you in C. I don't tend to like the baby Pokemon very much. I like the concept of it from a world building perspective, but I don't like seeing them in the games. I don't know why. Next up we have a few more baby Pokemon. You are probably one of my favourite baby Pokemon. I'm going to give you a B. Igglybuff, I believe this is called. C. It's kind of cute, I guess. Next we have Togepi. Really cool Pokemon to introduce the concept of eggs into the games in Generation 2. Quite an important Pokemon, I think, and I'm going to give it an A. Next up, Togetic, I believe you're called, and I've never liked the design of this Pokemon. I just don't think it goes with the rest of its line at all. Don't really understand why it changes so differently. I'm going to give it a C. Next we have Natu. I really enjoy Natu. I'm going to give it a B. It's a really cool evolution, I think. I like the idea of
the Natu being just like its head and then it gains like a whole body. I just think that's an interesting concept for a Pokemon. I'm going to give it an A. Next up we have Mareep, a very strong Pokemon to get early game. Nice design, I guess. I'm going to give you a B. Then Fluffy, I don't like as much as Mareep. And you, I'm going to give an A. Really strong Pokemon, and if you was to get Mareep early game, I think by the end of it essentially. You're okay, I'm going to give you a C. Marill, I'm not a fan of the Pikachu clones personally. I prefer quite unique Pokemon, so the idea of loads of Pokemon based off of one singular one is not that interesting to me. I'm going to give it a C. Azumarill 2, I think I'm just going to give it a C. Just not a huge fan of that line, really. Next up we have Sudowoodo. Really cool Pokemon that I've used quite a lot, but it's quite a difficult one to use in the games. If you're going for a bit of a challenge with quite a unique team, I definitely recommend Sudowoodo, but I can't really put it any higher than a B. Politoed, a Pokemon that I've never actually used. Got a kind of cool design, I guess, but I'm going to give it a C. Next we have Hoppip, probably one of the weakest Pokemon ever, but in terms of the design, I really enjoy it. I'm going to give it a B. You are okay too. I'm going to give you a B. This one's okay. I just completely forget the name of, to be honest, whilst I'm recording these videos, and I'm sure it'll come back to me straight afterwards, but I can't really think of the name, but I know that I don't enjoy it too much. I don't think I use it very often. I'm going to give it a C. Next we have Apom. I believe one of the first Pokemon to be introduced from Generation 2 back in the 90s. Kind of cool design. It's in the Legends Arceus games. Quite an aggressive Pokemon. I'm going to give you a B. Sunkern, probably one of the worst Pokemon ever, stats-wise, but I really enjoyed this line. I just like the idea of like a happy little seed turning into a sunflower. I'm going to give you a B, and I'm going to give Sunflora a B too. Next up, Yanma, and I absolutely love the idea of Dragonfly Pokemon. Of course, it being the first of that type, I'm going to give you an A. Next up we have Wooper, and I know some people absolutely love Wooper and find its design cute and stuff, but I've never been a fan personally. I'm going to give it a C. Next up we have its evolution Quagsire. Quite a unique Pokemon in the way its moveset works. Of course, it has 4 moves and you can't change that moveset at all throughout the game, and it's like a counter-attack Pokemon. But I think its design is a bit goofy for me. I'm going to put it in C. Next up we have Espeon, one of my favourite evolutions, and I'm going to put you in A. After that we have Umbreon, probably my favourite evolution, to be honest. I'm going to put you in S. Next up Murkrow, pretty cool Pokemon. I like the witch theme it has. I'm going to give it a B. Next up Slowking. To be honest, I never used this line really ever. I just don't like the idea of it. I'm going to give it a C. Next up we have Mischievous, a really cool Pokemon in my opinion that I use quite often in the games. I'm going to give you an A. Next up, Unknown. Obviously one of the coolest concepts in probably the whole of Pokemon is the idea of unknown, and the fact that it potentially holds like the energy for everything in the entire Pokemon world, but obviously as a Pokemon in the game it's very weak. I'm going to give it an A. You're kinda cool. I'm going to give you a C. Next up we have Girafarig. I love its design, with the fact that it's got like a head on its tail that is like controlling the whole giraffe. I'm going to give it an A. Next up we have Pineco, which is probably one of my favourite Pokemon from this whole region personally. I know it's a bit of an underlooked Pokemon I find, but absolutely really cool whole line, to be honest. That's what I'm going to put its evolution into S2. Next up we have Dunsparce, really cool Pokemon. I love its design. I like the idea of like a baby sleeping dragon in a cave. Well, obviously it's a horrid Pokemon to actually use, but I'm gonna give it an A. Next we have Gligar. Nice flying rock type, I believe. It's cool to use in the games, and I really like its design. I'm gonna give it an A. Next up, Steelix. It's a good evolution for Onyx, I think, given it the steel type. I'm going to give it a B. Next up, we have the, I think, Snubbull and Grand Ball line, and to be honest, these are probably some of my least favourite Pokemon ever. I'm just going to have to put them in D tier. Then we have Quillfish, really cool poison and water type, quite a unique typing, definitely at this point of the game anyway, and I really love its design, to be honest. A. You're kind of cool, but I don't like the idea of like Power Ranger Pokemon. I'm gonna give it a C. Shuckle, really underlooked Pokemon, probably one of the best defensive stats in the whole game, and I just love its design. I'm gonna give it an A. Next we have Heracross, probably one of the strongest bug types ever, and it makes the bug type a bit cooler to use in the games, which is good because obviously bug type is what sort of is the foundation of all Pokemon, really. I'm going to give it an A. Next we have Sneasel. Yeah, I like its colouring. I like the big sort of ear it's got. It's okay. I love its evolution in Legends Arceus, but of course this is just Sneasel itself, and I'm going to give it a B. Next we have Teddiursa and Ursaring. I really like Teddiursa's like crescent shape on its head. I'm going to give it an A. And Ursaring, I think, is a bit of a step down from Teddiursa. I would have liked to seen its like crescent shape. I guess the circle on its chest may be supposed to represent the moon. I'm not really sure what design-wise is going on there. Then we have Slugma. Again, really cool concept for a Pokemon, it being one of them slugs that actually lives in lava, and its Pokédex entry is quite wild too. I'm going to give it a B. Then Magcargo, you're going to get a B. Then Swinub, I really like the idea of like a woolly mammoth Pokemon, and this, of course, the pre-evolution to that. I like that it's like a little pig. It's kind of cute. I'm going to give it an A. Then we have the woolly mammoth himself. You can get an A. Then we have Corsola. Probably one of the coolest regional variants up to date is the Sword and Shield Cursula, adding the ghost type. And yeah, pretty solid Pokemon. I'm going to give it a B. Remoraid, probably one of my least favourites from this generation. I just think it just looks a bit silly, to be honest. Octillery is definitely an upgrade. I'm going to give that a B. I just love octopus Pokemon, and the fact that it's kind of like a tank. Next up we have the Santa Claus Pokemon, I guess. Bit silly, to be honest. I like its role in the games when it appears, as it appears in like Sun and Moon when it comes down the chimney. I think that appearance there was just enough to save it from a D. I'm going to give it a C. Next we have Mantike or Mantine. I always get them wrong. Kind of cool. I like the flying fish element. I'm going to give it a B. Skarmory, very strong Pokemon in the games, and just a really all-round cool Pokemon. I think I'm going to give it an A. Houndour. I love the little dog Pokemon, and I like a little fire dog. I'm going to give it an A. Houndoom, I think, has always had one of the coolest designs of a Pokemon. It's like a little devil Pokemon. I'm going to give it an S. Seadra, I absolutely love seahorses in real life, one of my favourite animals, and I think this design lives up to that. Being a water and dragon type, I just think is awesome too. I'm going to give it an S. Phanpy, one of the cutest Pokemon ever in my opinion. Little elephant, I'm going to give it an A. Donphan, really cool evolution. I think giving it like big armor and making it a bit of a tank. A. Porygon, kind of cool, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever really used it in the games. I'm going to give it a B. Next up we have Stantler, of course, a very cool Pokemon these days with like Weirdeer in Legends Arceus, but judging from its Generation 2 appearance, it doesn't really do much in the games for me. It's got a nice design, I guess. Gonna get a B. Smeargle, of course, has the copycat move. I like the idea of like a painting Pokemon, I guess. Just a really interesting design. I'm gonna give it a B. Next we have baby Pokemon, Tyrogue, I believe you're called. You're okay, I guess. I don't like you as much as the other baby ones we talked about in B, so I'm going to give you a C. Hitmon Top, I believe you are. I've never really liked this Pokemon at all. I'm going to give it a D, but just about. I could justify putting it in C, but I think, if anything, I'm going to put you like top of D. Smoochum, just trash Pokemon for me. You're going to go in D. Elekid, one of the better baby Pokemon. You're going to go into C. Magby, I don't like as much as Elekid. You're going to go into D. Of course, we have the infamous Miltank. If you ever played the Generation 2 games, you'll know how difficult the Whitney fight is because of this Pokemon and its annoying tactics. But I like the idea of like a cow Pokemon regenerating health for using its milk. I'm going to give it a B. Next up we have Blissey, and I genuinely hate this design. I don't know why. It's just a Chansey with curly hair. I'm going to give it a D. Next up we have the 3 legendary dogs, starting with Raikou. Probably my second favourite legendary dog. You're going to go into A. Entei is kind of cool, but probably my least favourite of the 3. You're going to go into B. And Suicune is just one of the coolest legendary designs probably ever. You're going to go into S. I always jumble the names up of the next 3, but of course one of the strongest Pokemon in the whole region. You're kind of a cool first stage. I don't really like you as a second stage, but of course one of the strongest Pokemon and one of probably the coolest designs if you're talking like just showing strength. I'm going to give it an A. Now for me, out of the 2 box art legendaries, Lugia is my favourite. I'm going to give it an S, and I'm going to give Ho-Oh an A. And last up we have Celebi. Just in terms of design, I like the little pixie fairy type thing that lives in the woods. I just really like that thought-provoking concept. I'm going to have to give it an S. And that's all for this Generation 2 tier list. I'm sure we will be back at some point for Generation 3, which is my personal favourite region, so that should be fun. And thank you for watching. Welcome back to a brand new tier list ranking. Today we are talking football kits from Premier League clubs for the 2022 to 2023 season. First up we have the new Arsenal kit. Personally, this is one of my favourites from this season. I'm going to give it a perfect. Next we have the new Arsenal home kit. Again, a very nice kit. Arsenal know how to do their kits. I'm going to put it in pretty nice. And I think I'm going to put their third kit into pretty nice too. Just three very solid kits this year from Arsenal again. Next up we have the Aston Villa kits. This one is okay, I think it's a fine kit. The home kit, again, it's an Aston Villa kit, it's okay. It doesn't scream to me fantastic, but it's just a nice solid kit. We also have the Aston Villa third shirt, I believe. I don't know if this is the third or the away kit, but I like the colouring. Yeah, it's pretty nice, I think. I think that one's a bit better than the previous 2 kits.
Next up we have the Brighton away kit, I believe. I like the things on the shoulders. It's a pretty nice kit. Up next we have the Brentford away kit, I think. Again, it's that weird colour that all the clubs seem to be going with for their away kits. It's a fine looking kit. I don't know if I should put it in okay or pretty nice. I'm going to put this one in okay. I think we have a black kit from Bournemouth. It's quite a nice kit, I guess. I mean, black kits always tend to do well. They don't look fantastic, but again, you can't really put them that low down, I don't think. I'm going to go okay. Next up, we have this other Bournemouth kit. I think this one looks really cool. I'm going to put this in pretty nice. And then we have the Bournemouth home kit, which is one of my favourites from this year, to be honest. I'm going to put this into perfect. We're starting off strong here. We've got this other Brentford kit. It looks quite nice, I guess. I'm going to put it in okay. We have Brentford's home kit that they've used last season as well, of course, to save fans money, which I think is a great idea. But I don't think I can put it in pretty nice because it's just a fine kit. I'm going to put it in okay again. We have the Brighton home kit that I know a lot of people aren't a fan of, but personally I quite enjoy this kit. I'm going to give it a pretty nice. Next up we have this other Brighton kit, I believe. It's an okay kit, but I'm actually not really a fan of this one. I'm going to give this the first not a fan. Up next we have the Chelsea third kit, I believe. And I'm just going to say that I don't really like this kit at all. I think I'm going to put it in get rid of it. Now the Chelsea home kit, it's fine. It's a blue kit. Okay, I think for me. We have this other Chelsea kit. I don't personally like this, although I don't dislike it as much as this one, so I'm going to give it a not a fan. So the next three are the three Crystal Palace kits, and to be honest, I absolutely love all of these at different levels, I think. We have the black one, I think it's pretty nice. We have I think this is the away kit, I believe. I give these next two perfect. I just really enjoy this pattern, it just looks great. Next up we have Everton's home kit. Again, it's a blue kit, it's fine. I'm going to put it in okay. Next up we have the Everton away or third kit, I don't know. It's good. I think it's a nice kit, to be honest with you. I'm going to put it in pretty nice. Now we have the Fulham home kit. It's okay. So Fulham home kit, I don't believe Fulham's home kit has changed that much in the past 10 years or so, so it's okay. Next up we have Fulham's away kit, I believe, and this one I actually really like. I think it's perfect. I don't know why, just the shady on it just looks really cool. Next up we have the Leicester home kit. Again, I don't really know what to say about it. It's a blue kit with a white sponsor like these two. I think I'm just going to put it in okay again, to be honest. Next up we have a really interesting one. We have the Leeds away kit, and to be honest, I think this could be seen as like a classic kit in about 10-15 years time, and I'm going to give it a pretty nice. We have the Leeds home kit. Again, it's a bit plain. It's a Leeds kit with the blue trimmings and the white. I'm just going to put it in okay. We have Leicester's third kit, I believe. I'm just not a fan of this colour. I just think it looks a bit weird. Next up we have Leicester's away kit / third kit, I don't know. The colour on this looks really interesting, but it does look like just a black kit. I think I might put this in pretty nice. Yeah, pretty nice. Now we have the Liverpool home kit. It's a fine kit. Can I put it that high up? It's very basic. I'm going to put it in okay. Next up we have the Liverpool away kit, and I really don't like this. I don't know if it's a get rid of it, but I'm not a fan. We have Man City's home kit. Again, it's a bit basic, but I think it's got, I like the centered badge. It's quite an interesting take, so I'm going to give it a pretty nice. Now we come up to Man United's free kits, and I think these are all like classic kits for me. I think these just look really nice. I'm going to give the home kit a pretty nice. This away kit a pretty nice, and I think the away kit is a perfect for me. I just love the black banner thing with the logo, and it just looks really clean. Next up we have the Man City away kit. It's an odd one, I think. I'm not a fan of it personally. Now we have the three Newcastle kits. We have this one. I think that one is okay. This one is pretty nice. I like the colouring, and the classic black and white stripes is okay, I think. Next up, we seem to have another Aston Villa one. I don't know what this is. Is this like a fourth kit? It looks okay. I'll put it in okay. Now we have the Nottingham Forest home kit. It looks very basic without the sponsor, but I do like the Trent Bridge design arms. I'm going to give this one a pretty nice. I think it's just a clean kit. Next up we have the Forest away kit. Again, I think I like this one a bit more than the home kit, but I'm going to give it a pretty nice. Next up we have the Southampton away kit. I think this one looks quite clean. I'm going to go pretty nice. Now we have the Southampton away kit, and I really like this design. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of it. You know, for me, this is a perfect Southampton kit. I just really like the big stripe down the centre. Next up we have the bus seat design from Southampton. I'm really not a fan of this one. I think I'm going to give it a get rid of. Yeah. We have the Spurs home kit. It's fine. Again, a bit basic. It's okay. We have the Spurs away kit, I believe. I'm not personally a fan of this one. The Spurs third kit. I actually really enjoy this kit. It's a bit different. It's a bit unique. I'm going to give it a pretty nice. Next up we have the West Ham home kit, and I don't really like the stripes on the arms personally. I'm going to give this one not a fan really. I think it's just a bit less than okay for me. Next up is the West Ham away kit. It's okay. It's a black kit again. Now we have the Man City third kit, and to be honest with you, this is one of my favourites from this season, so I'm going to give it a perfect. And last but not least, we have the two Wolverhampton Wanderers kits. This one is fine, and I always love a Wolves kit. I'm going to give it a pretty nice. And that's been all for this tier list. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.
Welcome to a brand new tier list. Today we are going to be talking about the suburbs of Nottingham and my personal experiences with them. So let's go. First up is Arnold. I quite enjoy Arnold. It's a good place to go shopping. There's a lot of good charity shops and things. I'm going to put it into decent. Next up is Aspley, and from my experience of Aspley, it's not been that great. There's a lot of people that I don't really like. I'm going to put it into undesirable. Next up is Bakersfield. I don't really know much about Bakersfield. I have been there a few times, but I don't really remember any shops or anything from there. I'm going to put it into average. Baseford, they have a good McDonald's. They have a good little non-league football team. Quite enjoy Baseford. I'm going to put it into decent. Next up is Bilborough, and even though there's not really much in Bilborough at all, it's just a little row of shops. It's quite a decent little area, I think. I'm going to put it into decent. Next up is Broxtowe, and don't really know what to say about Broxtowe. There's a few corner shops and things. I'm going to put it into average. Next up is a bit of a controversial one in Bull. It tends to be the laughing stock of Nottingham really, but from my experiences there, The area's quite decent. There's a lot of cool shops and stuff like Kex there now. I'm going to put it into average. Next up is Clifton, and that will be my first avoid of the list. I just really don't enjoy going there. There's not really much to see there. You know, if you're an NTU student or something visiting the Clifton campus, then that's probably the only decent part of it. However, the rest of the town is not that interesting, I don't think. Next up is Colic, and Colic's quite nice. It's got a big park, some posh shops and things. I'm going to put it into decent. Next up is the Forest Fields. I come here quite often as me and my partner use the park and go thing for the tram. However, the actual area is not that great. I'm going to give it an undesirable. Next up is Hyson Green, and obviously traditionally it would probably be an avoid, but to be honest it has some decent shops there. I'm going to give it an undesirable. Next up is Lenton. It's one of them places that I've not really been much, and I don't really remember there being much in it. I'm going to put it into undesirable. Up next is Mapley. Mapley's okay, it's got some decent houses and things. I'm going to put it into average. The Meadows, of course, where the Notts County ground is, Meadow Lane. The actual area itself is not great. I'm going to put it into undesirable. Radford is an avoid for me. Just most of the shops there are boarded up and things like that. It doesn't look great. Sherwood, for me, is the first pleasant on this list. I enjoy going through there. They've got some nice charity shops and things. There's a Subway, just everything you want really. Sneinton, I quite enjoy Sneinton. The market's good. It's a cool area where a lot of skaters hang out and things. I'm going to put it into decent. St. Anne's is an avoid. I don't know what the statistics of crime rate and things like that is like in St. Anne's, but I imagine it's quite high. Up next is Strelly. Strelly's okay. It's got the big Asda and things like that. Next up is the park. The park is a little like a posh estate just behind the Nottingham Castle and the Robin Hood statue. It has some of the nicest houses in Nottingham, to be fair, although it is really just a little tiny area with no shops or anything, so I'm going to give it decent. Next up is Top Valley / Bestwood. To be honest, I quite enjoy this area. The Top Valley has a really nice big Tesco, and Bestwood has a big park, big country park, and I'm going to put it into decent. Up next is West Bridgford, obviously where the forest ground is the city ground, even though it's not in the city. Other than that, it's not a very nice area, I don't think. I'm going to put it into undesirable. Next up, I've just googled where Wilford is, and I don't think I've actually ever been there, so I'm going to leave that one. Last but not least is Woolerton, and obviously it has Woolerton Hall. It has a lot of nice charity shops. It has some of the nicer housing in Nottingham. So for that, I'm going to put it into pleasant. That's been all for this tier list. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Welcome back to a brand new tier list. Today we are going to be talking about the Doctor Who title screens and what looks the most aesthetically pleasing, I guess. Let's get into it. So first we have obviously the very first title screen, quite basic. It's got the like white sort of psychedelic pattern in the background. Definitely a nice looking title screen, but definitely not the coolest on this list either. I'm going to give it a B. Next up we have what is probably the most basic title screen. It's just Doctor Who in a very standard font, in a bit less cool of a background, I guess. I think I'm going to have to put this one into D tier. Next up, they start getting a bit experimental with the backgrounds and things, and we've got some colour now. I quite enjoy this one, but I don't think as much as the original. I'm going to give it a C. Next up we have the iconic like diamond logo, and this is one of my favourites. I'm going to give it an S, just because of the way the colours pop off and font's perfect, just looks really cool. Next up, we have like this Star Wars looking one. Looks cool, but I don't think it's as good as the original. I'm gonna probably put it with the first color one. Next up, we have a very similar pattern to the last one, but in blue. I just think blue looks a bit cooler with this sort of design, so I'm going to give it a B. Up next is the very iconic sort of classic Doctor Who one with sort of red shadow coming off it. Looks cool. I'm gonna give it an A. After that is the one the BBC like to use a lot to show off the classic era of Doctor Who. It looks quite cool. I don't think I like it enough to put it in A. I'm going to give it a B. Up next we have the start of the modern era of Doctor Who. I do very much like this design, however I don't like it as much as the sort of updated, more brighter version of it, so I'm going to give it a B, and I'm going to give the brighter version an A. Then we have Matt Smith's era. I'm not huge on this personally. I don't really like how the DW in the middle looks. I know it's supposed to look like a TARDIS, but somewhat a bit off there for me. I'm going to give it a C. After that is the red smoke background. It looks okay, but I'm going to give it a C. After that is the sort of Peter Capaldi era one. This one famously had like a time sync error as to the music not lining up with the actual thing, what's going on the screen, by just a few milliseconds. I'm not huge on it personally. I'm going to give it a C. After that we have the latest one. Looks quite cool. I like the clouds and things as it's made to look like a bit of a vortex. I'm going to give this one a B. That's been all for this tier list. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hello and welcome back to a new video. Today we are going to be talking about the university's league tables. I've decided to talk about this now because I've just recently been accepted into uni myself, so I would like to see sort of how my uni fares against the best and worst unis in the country, and it's just going to be very interesting. Let's go. So up first, of course, is the Uni of Oxford. They have a 100% score. They have 1000 out of 1000. I don't know what this exact score even means, but it looks good. Then we have Cambridge, then the London School of Economics and Political Science, then St Andrews, Imperial College London, Durham, Loughborough, Bath, UCL. Here we have the local rivals, the Uni of Nottingham, doing really well, to be fair, in the top 25 in the whole country with a 72% overall score. After quite a bit of scrolling, I have found NTU. They do have a 61% overall score, which is not bad when you take into account quality of many of the unis near the top. Recently they have been plummeting a bit. They've gone down 11 places from, I'm guessing, last year. Taking a more in-depth look, they do have 59% for entry standards, a 76% student satisfaction, a 77% research quality. They do have a 90% degree completion, so that bodes well for me, I guess. 15.3 for the student to staff ratio, which is quite decent. Where the uni lacks a bit though, unfortunately, is the graduate prospects outcomes with a 63%. Scrolling all the way down, we will see who's right at the bottom, and it is Ravensbourne University London. I don't know whereabouts in London that is, but if this is anything to go by, I wouldn't go there personally. Leeds Trinity, Bedfordshire, Glyndare University in Wrexham. Now this one's interesting, as you'll see a bit later on. It does rank right near the bottom for the overall score. However, you will see on this column here, they are right near the top for student satisfaction, so that's something interesting to think about, I guess. Talking about the student satisfaction, number one is St Andrews, and as you see, Glendaire University in Wrexham is 82%, even though it is one of the lowest ranked overall, which is very interesting. You got Aberystwyth, Plymouth Marjan, St Mary's Uni in Twickenham, London Met, Loughborough, which is fairly close to me. Could have gone to that one actually, but for what I wanted to do in content creation, there was sort of no other choice, but I'm just really happy to be at uni, to be honest, and NTU looks like, and having done a little tour around the campus and stuff, it does look like a great place to study, so I'm definitely not disappointed at all. Going towards the bottom for the student satisfaction, right at the bottom, they don't count Oxford and Cambridge for some reason, but the bottom ranked one is St George's University of London, Ravensbourne, which is no surprise because that is actually the bottom ranked one. Can't imagine what that uni's like on a day-to-day basis. Brunel, Uni London. Obviously, London having many unis, as is a fairly big place. There is another column I wanted to talk about because I found it interesting. With a 95%, St George's Uni of London has the best prospect outcome after finishing the course, how likely these people are to get jobs, and as you scroll right near the bottom, make of this what you will, but it is a creative arts course, and you'll see like Arts University Bournemouth, there's quite a bit towards the bottom of art unis. Personally, me studying a creative course, it doesn't bode well. So having looked at NTU in full display, it does look as if our strength lies with degree completion, as we have quite a good ratio of 90% and quite a decent student to staff ratio, but it does fall short on the graduate prospects and the research intensity. I don't know what that entails, and when you take into account the student satisfaction for NTU, it doesn't look great, coming in at 88th in the country, which is definitely bottom tier, I guess. So I just thought this would be a very interesting topic to have a look at right now, as obviously there is still a chance for students to get into these unis if they act fast. Let me know where you are studying or will be studying. That is all for this video, and thank you for watching. Welcome back to a brand new tier list. Today we're going to be going through every Pokemon mainline game from Red and Blue to Sword and Shield. This is a bit of an old tier list at this point, which is why Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and Legends Arceus are not on this list. And for argument's sake, I would have probably put Legends Arceus as an S, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl probably around a B or C. It is using the SABCD format, and I have arranged all of the games into their regions instead of the generations because I just find it a bit easier to visualize. And let's go. So obviously up first is Red and Blue. Classic games, but I think certainly in later years Kanto did get done better. I'm going to put Blue into C and Red into C2. Yellow's a bit of a different one. I do prefer Yellow over Red and Blue just because of the fact that you can get all three starters. I just find really cool. It's one of the only games to do that to this date, and I'm going to give it a B. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are good revamps of the originals, I believe. I love the catching mechanics in this one, and the fact that shinies are quite easy to find. It does somewhat lessen the shiny finding experience, but to be honest, I don't mind playing these from time to time. I'm going to give Eevee a B and Pikachu an A. Generation Freeze, Leaf Green and Fire Red is up next, and these are quite solid additions to Kanto. I prefer them both a bit better than the original Red and Blue, and I give Leaf Green a B and Fire Red a B. Now we're into Johto. Gold and Silver are both classic games for me. I'm going to give Ho-Oh's Gold a B. I'm going to give Lugia's Silver an A. Crystal I find to just be a better version of the two. I'm going to give it an S. Heart Gold and Soul Silver for me are both S tier. I love the fact that Pokemon can follow you on these games, and I don't understand why it took so long to bring that feature back. And overall just makes the region just a lot crisper and cleaner, I think. So S tier for me. On to Ruby and Sapphire. Ruby is a B for me. Sapphire is an A. I just prefer the box art legendary of Kyogre to Groudon personally. And Emerald, I can't tell you how much joy I had with this game as a kid. Probably my favourite Pokemon game ever. It's an S for me. Its remakes in Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. Straight away, Alpha Sapphire, S for me. I love what it did for the region. I like the post-game story it gives you. Ruby is a bit less in A, but both classics in my opinion. Diamond and Pearl, both very solid additions. For me, Diamond is a B, Pearl is a C. These are the games that I technically grew up with. However, they pale in comparison to the legendary Platinum, which was one of my first ever Christmas presents as a kid, and nothing will ever beat that feeling of opening up my first actual Pokemon game and playing it all of Christmas. It's a definite S tier. So on to Black and White, super underrated games. I do really enjoy these titles. I think they have one of the strongest stories in the franchise. I think I'm going to put both of these into A. And Black and White 2, very interesting ones because I think it takes the original stories of the games and just makes it better. I'm going to give Black 2 an S, give White 2 an A, just to the account of me preferring the dark version of Kyurem. So we are on to Sun and Moon, and to be honest, I can't rank these too highly, knowing that Ultra Sun and Moon is just going to come in a few years and just make everything in the game better, really. Moon I prefer over Sun. It's going to go into C, and Sun is going to be the first D tier game. Ultra Sun and Moon, however, a different story. I think these changed almost everything about the game, just made them better, added loads more features to make the game more enjoyable, added a whole new post game that just sort of added so much content. Ultra Moon for me is an A, and Ultra Sun is a B. Now we're on to X and Y, two very solid additions to the franchise. However, Pokemon wise, probably some of my favourite additions in the whole series. However, the game itself I didn't find that fantastic. I do like the whole rollerblading element, and I do like that they are the first to the Mega Evolution gimmick into the game, which is my favourite Pokemon gimmick. Just really cool. I'm going to have to give Y a B and X also a B. Now we're on to the final games in this list. It is Sword and Shield, and just by the account of me only having played Sword, I'm going to give that higher than Shield. I do know that these games probably added the most version exclusive stuff that we've really seen to date, as with the different gym leaders and things. I'm going to give Sword a solid B, and Shield for me is going into C. And there you have it, that is my tier list for the mainline Pokemon games. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your favourite of the games, least favourite of the games, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing something a bit different. I'm going to go through CD Keys, which is a game key selling website. I'm obviously not sponsored by them at all. This is just what I like to use personally, because you can get some incredible deals here if you're looking for cheap games, and it's definitely worth looking before you buy games directly from Steam. As far as I can tell, this is a 100% legitimate website. I don't know how they get their keys so cheap and why they're able to sell them, but they just do. I thought I'd just look through this site and find games under £5 that you can get. I just thought I would sift through CD Keys and find games that are under £5 that I would just recommend. Hope you enjoy. Let's go. So straight away, Dying Light is quite a solid sort of zombie survival game. It adds a lot of sort of parkour elements into it. I'm sure a lot of you have played this game by now. There is a number 2 out if you happen to enjoy it after playing it. £5 a bit of a bargain, I think, for Dying Light Platinum Edition. I don't know what it adds, but I'm sure it adds a bit. Euro Truck Simulator 2 is under £5. Game that I've never played myself, but definitely want to get into that sort of thing. I love simulation games where you just chill out and cruise around wherever in Europe. On this exact same page is City Skylines. If you're into your city building games, there really is no better one than City Skylines, I don't think. Just super solid, so much content to it, so much depth. Just below City Skylines is Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition. And I'm sure by now I don't need to tell you how incredible Fallout New Vegas is. Just probably one of the most in-depth games ever in terms of you could just kill a main character and it completely changes the outcome of the story. It's just absolutely fantastic. Every time you play the game, it ends up with slightly different outcomes in certain scenarios, and it's just the best Fallout game in my opinion. Doom 2016 is a super fast-paced shooter, as you'd expect from Doom. I feel it keeps a lot of the important characteristics from the original, but certainly adds its own modern spin with the graphics and things. Obviously there is Doom Eternal now, so if you enjoy Doom, you can go to that, but that's a bit more expensive. For £3.99, Doom 2016 is just a steal. Also on this list is Oblivion Game of the Year Edition, another game that needs no introduction, possibly my favourite game of all time. Of course now it is a bit outdated graphically, and obviously the dialogue is hilarious, but there's no end of fun that can be had with Oblivion if you enjoy your role-playing games. Bit of a wild card on this list is Saints Row 2, coming in at £3.99. Sort of a GTA rip-off type thing, but it has its own characteristics and flair, with just how crazy the game gets at some points. If you've never played Saints Row 2, I would definitely recommend it. It is most certainly the best Saints Row in the series. If you're a fan of your horror, Outlast is a classic at this point. At £3.39, definitely worth the fee for it. This game will make you jump quite a bit, I imagine. And the last game I want to talk about today is Graveyard Keeper, a super unique and interesting game where you play as a graveyard keeper and you essentially are tasked with burying the bodies that gets transported to you on this donkey as you see in the picture. It's kind of a resource/time management game, but it's a lot more in depth than that. It's a really cool, unique game that I would recommend. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
I was born 87 years ago. For 65 years, I've ruled as Tamriel's emperor. But for all these years, I've never been the ruler of my own dreams. I have seen the gates of oblivion, beyond which no waking eye may see. Behold, in darkness, a doom sweeps the land. This is the 27th of last seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the third era and the final hours of my life.
Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, where today we will be dabbling in a brand new tier list. Just a quick side note, I have bought a brand new microphone. It is the Sonytronics Podcast Pro, and hopefully the quality comes out a lot better. So for today's tier list, we'll be ranking the 6 Enter Shikari studio albums. So I'm going to start off straight away with the newest, Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible. I think this is a fairly solid album, but it tries to get a bit too artsy for what it pulls off. It's okay, but in the context of the whole discography, I think it is their weakest project, in my opinion. I'm going to give it a D. But by no means is this a bad album. Up next, I'm going to talk Common Dreads, album number 2. A really good album with the theme of like solidarity and community. I think it's very similar to their first album, Take to the Skies, but in my opinion is not as well-rounded as that album. I'm going to give Common Dreads a B. Next up, I want to talk The Minesweep. Pretty cool, solid with some very good highs, but I think this album contains some of Enter Shikari's sort of lowest points. Songs like Slipshod for me were mildly entertaining the first time I listened, but it's absolutely grating to listen to upon repeated listens, and I think it kills the longevity of this album, having little comedic points that aren't particularly that funny in my opinion. Again, some really solid tracks on here like Torn Apart, but I'm going to give this album a C. Next up to rate is The Spark. I love the whole space and exploration theme of this album, something that Enter Shikari had been toying with for years up to this point. I do really enjoy this album. I don't think it has as many highs as other Shikari albums, but I'm going to give this a solid B. Up next is the album that started it all, Take to the Skies. So many pop punk and sort of post-hardcore anthems in this thing, some blaring electronic elements, fused with really hard-hitting, heavy instruments, make this album a standout even to this day. Of course, features some of Enter Shikari's most well-known songs, like Sorry You're Not a Winner and Mothership. Overall, a pretty fantastic project, but I think it's slightly bettered by one more album we're about to talk about, so I'm going to give this an A. And that album is A Flash Flood of Colour. I think, in my opinion, it is just Enter Shikari's best album from start to finish. There isn't a weak song on this album, in my opinion. Songs like Anesthetist are absolutely iconic at this point. Even down to the album art is just so cool. Just everything about this album just generates S-tier energy, in my opinion. So that's where it will go. Thank you for watching this latest tier list. I hope the audio quality has improved the quality of the videos overall, and let me know how you would rate Enter Shikari's discography in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, where today we will be dabbling in the world of starter Pokemon. Of course, if you have not watched them yet, I do have a Pokemon Generation 1 and 2 tier list on the channel, so feel free to watch those. And I've not recorded it yet, but I imagine the Generation 3 tier list will be out sometime in the near future. But for now, I just wanted to see, I guess, even personally, like, what is my favourite starters, who don't I like, because obviously a lot of the time the starters define sort of the games they come from. So starting off with Generation 1, of course, I think how I'm going to do this tier list is my least favourite first, my second favourite, and my favourite from each of the regions. Okay, we've got a super controversial one to start with. My least favourite from this region is indeed Charmander. It's not that it's a bad Pokemon at all. Of course, Charizard is fantastic and is iconic for a reason. But this stems from me as a kid. I always used to pick Charmander. And I guess over time I just grew a bit bored with using it. And so I started using the other two a lot more. And I found myself just enjoying the playthroughs more. I don't know if that's because I didn't pick Charmander, but that's just my personal experience. Next up we have Squirtle, which I'm going to put into B tier. super solid Pokemon, obviously Blastoise, great water type, iconic like cannon design. But I guess there is just starters that I prefer a bit better on this list, so it's going into a solid B. Up next we have Bulbasaur. I've had a weird relationship with Bulbasaur over the years, because it did used to be my least favourite when I was picking Charmander all the time, but now that's completely flipped, and actually Bulbasaur is probably one of my favourite starters ever. I guess as I've got older, I've just matured a bit more. I don't know why, but Bulbasaur just became a lot more appealing to me as I was growing up. It's going to go into S tier. Next up we have Chikorita. This is another super controversial one, and my least favourite of this region also does happen to be the fire starter. I don't dislike it as much as Charmander. I'm probably going to give it a B. I don't know what it is. I think it's just when it evolves into Typhlosion, I'm just not a huge fan of its final form. And also especially its 3D model I just find to be not very good at all. So you are going into B. My mid for Johto is actually Chikorita. Probably one of the most hated starters of all time. Meganium's a pretty cool Pokemon. Later in the games. I don't know why it gets so much hate. I guess it's weak against a lot of the gym leaders in its region, but just a solid Pokemon in my opinion. That leaves Totodile as my favourite from this region. Not quite good enough to go into S, I don't think. Again, it's a similar situation where I don't really like its evolutions, but Totodile itself is fantastic. I think Feraligatr just looks a bit silly for some reason, I don't know why. You're going into A. So I promise this isn't for every single region, but again, the fire type is my least favourite from this region as well. However, I am a Gen 3 person, and I still absolutely love Chikorita, so it's still going into A. It's just the one I use the least out of the three. It's been a hard-fought battle over the years as to which of these next two is one of my favourite starters of all time. I think both of them are, to be honest. I think I'm just going to put them both into S tier. Mudkip is based off one of my favourite animals ever, the Mudskipper. And Trico is just a super cool gecko that I absolutely love the evolutions of. Yeah, both S tier for me. Now we are on to the 3 Generation 4 starters, and again, in my opinion, one of the better trios in the whole series. We have Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup. For me, I absolutely love Turtwig, but I think it is my least favourite of the 3. I think it's a respectable B tier for Turtwig, even though Torterra is probably the best of the 3 final evolutions, giving it that ground type and it completely wrecks the Elite Four. Chimchar is probably my second favourite of the 3. Again, I'll probably put it into B tier. It's not one of my favourites, but a super strong Pokemon to use. And next up we have Piplup, and again, one of my favourite starters, I think. It has to be S tier for me. I just love the idea of a little penguin becoming steel type and becoming like an emperor penguin. It's just so cool. Up next we have probably one of my least favourite starter trios in the series, even though the games they come from are fantastic. We have Snivy, which, to be honest with you, I'm going to put into D tier. It was actually my first starter I used in the black and white games, and I absolutely love the idea of a grass snake, but I just think it could have been done so much better in my opinion. Up next we have Tepig, cute fire pig. I just don't really like the fact that its final evolution is another fire and fighting type, which is such a common theme with the fire type starters, which also may be playing to a factor why I don't like many of the fire starters these days, because they all feel kind of the same to use in the games, I think. So that leaves Oshawott as my favourite from Generation 5, and I think it's very well deserved. Pretty cool Pokemon. I think you're going into A. On to Generation 6, we have Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. I think for me, Fennekin and Chespin are both D tier. Some of my least favourite starters in the games. I don't mind their designs, there's just something lacking for me. And then we go to Froakie, which is amongst my favourite starters. I just absolutely love all frog Pokemon, and I like that its final evolution turns into like a ninja. That's just super cool to me. Now we're on to Rowlet, Litten, and Poplio from Sun and Moon, and also Ultra Sun and Moon, I guess. I think my least favourite from this region is Back to the Fire starter. I think it's a solid trio. I don't dislike them as much as the ones in D tier, so I think I'm going to put you into C. And now Rowlet, just a super cool starter. Appeals to me in a lot of ways. Obviously it's a archer. In RPG games I do tend to prefer to play archer. And it is based off of the Tale of Robin Hood, which is actually set in where I'm from, in Nottingham. Yeah, it's a super cool Pokemon. You're going into A. Oops, I messed up a bit there. Rowlet is my favourite from this generation, but Poplio is just below that, I think. Decent water type. I just don't think it's anything too special in my opinion. Now we are on to Grookey, Sobble, and Scorbunny. I actually believe this is my least favourite starter trio in the whole series. I can't really put a finger on what it is, but Grookey and Scorbunny are just lacking something. They're lacking a bit of personality, I think. I don't know, I've just never been able to connect with these two Pokemon. Sobble was my starter from this generation. It's a solid starter. I think I'm going to put you into B. I know Inteleon gets memed on quite a lot now, but I do think it's an interesting concept for a Pokemon. I have had to get up a tab to remember the names of the next three because obviously it's so new. I know we have Quaxley. I think judging by early comments, probably the most popular of the three starters. We have Sprigatito, which is a grass cat, and we have Waikoko, which is a fire crocodile. In terms of my favourites so far, obviously we don't know their evolutions or anything like that, or what they like to play with in-game, so I can't make too much of an opinion. But based on early design, I'm going to go Sprigatito into C. I think Quaxley is a solid B tier, and the Pokemon I will be using for my first playthrough of Scarlet or Violet, I haven't decided which one yet, is actually Fuecoco. I can't yet put it in S, but I do absolutely love its design, so I'm just going to put Fuecoco into A. And that is my tier list for all of the Pokemon starters. Let me know in the comments your favourite and least favourite starters. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, and today we'll be dabbling in the world of NBA logos. I am ranking all of these teams exclusively on their logo design and not on core action. Let's get straight in with the 76ers. So it's a very simple design, this one, as a lot of them do. They have like the basketball logo background. I feel like there's just something missing about this logo. Like, it looks fine, but it just looks a bit incomplete to me. I think this one for me is actually straight into a D tier. Next we are talking Washington Wizards. This one just looks a lot cleaner. It has a similar sort of outline to the 76ers, but I just think this is done a bit better. This for me is a C. For me it's just missing a bit of character. Like, you could put any team name there and it could be a basketball team, I guess. Up next we have the Atlanta Hawks. And I'm just going to say it straight away, I really hate this logo. All I see when I see this logo is like a Pac-Man the wrong way round. I get that it's trying to be clever, as like the hawk is the inverse part of the logo. I don't know, again, there's something a bit missing here for me. It's going to go into D tier. Next up we're talking the Cleveland Cavaliers. In a way it doesn't really look like a basketball logo, but it still for me shows off a lot of character. I quite enjoy this logo personally. I'm going to give this an A. Next up we're talking the Detroit Pistons. Again, this is another super basic design that could be on any team if you was to put their team name there instead of the Detroit Pistons. For me, unfortunately, it's going to have to be a D tier. Onto the Milwaukee Bucks. And this logo is really basic. Doesn't even have the team name. At the same time, I can't really explain it. It gives off this cool vibe. I'm going to give this a B. Onto the Toronto Raptors. Again, I think this has a lot of character. They take the same basic design that a lot of the teams use, but have given it the 3 markings as like a raptor scratch. I just think that's super cool. I'm going to give this an B. Next up we have the Mavs, and I don't like this logo. It's kind of hard to see what it actually is. Like, I get the animal is like merged with the blue basketball or whatever, but I don't know, I don't like it. I'm going to give this a D. Next up, and we have the Denver Nuggets. This is quite a slick design. I do quite enjoy this personally. I like the sort of gold trimmings on everything. Like, I feel like they could have made the gold super overpowering on this logo, considering it is the Nuggets, like the gold Nuggets, but I don't know, the contrast with like the dark blue just looks really nice, I think. I'm going to give this an A. Next up, and we're talking the Houston Rockets. Obviously the R is supposed to be like a rocket shooting off, and the bottom of the rocket is like the fire that it's giving off. It looks okay. Again, there's a bit of personality there, but I'm not a huge fan of it personally. I'm going to give it a C. On to the Memphis Grizzlies, and we are looking at a grizzly bear. This gives me the same sort of vibes as the Milwaukee Bucks, but I don't like it as much as the Bucks. For me, this is a C. And now on to the first team that ever drafted me on NBA. It is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I quite enjoy this logo. Again, it has the standard basketball in the background, but the Howling Wolf does look quite cool, and the like center point of the ball is supposed to look like a star, I guess. Yeah, I quite enjoy this logo. I'm going to give this an B. On to the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm not huge on this personally. It's just like a generic college font with the little fuse thing on the U. Yeah, I'm not big on this. I'm going to give this a D. Next up is the Utah Jazz. A lot of personality there with the music note. It's going to be a B for me. Next up, we're talking Golden State Warriors, and this for me is the first S tier logo. It's quite plain, it's literally just the Golden State Bridge, but the color contrast just makes it look really clean and nice. Yeah, the first S tier. And now we're on to the Clippers. This is another super basic one with the basketball outline, but this is even more basic than the rest of them, because this is like a clip art basketball with the team name like in the center. You are going into D tier. Now onto the Phoenix Suns. This is quite an interesting one because it looks kind of like a trading card or something. It looks quite cool. The basketball is like the sun shooting into orbit or whatever. Looks cool. I'm going to give it a C. Onto the Sacramento Kings. I don't know what it is about this design. I just really don't like. I don't know, I don't have much to say about this one, to be honest. It's just a D. We're on to the New York Knicks. I quite enjoy like the 3D textures of this logo. Just looks super clean and nice. This is going to be a B tier for me. Now on to the Pelicans. This is quite a detailed logo. I just like how clean everything sort of comes together on this. I'm going to give this an A. Next onto the Charlotte Hornets. I'm not super fond of this one personally. I think this could have been really cool, but I just don't like how the actual Hornet looks in the background. Bit petty, but it is sort of the showpiece of the logo. I'm going to give this a C. Next onto the Portland Trail Blazers. This is quite a unique design. Me not being from the area, I don't really know what this is supposed to represent, but it looks kind of cool. I imagine it's got a lot of personality from Portland, but I don't really get this one personally. I think I'm still going to give it a B though. There's just something about it that looks kind of cool. Next, we're on to the Miami Heat. One of the most iconic logos in the NBA. And I think it looks okay. A flaming basketball going through a hoop. Quite a simple concept, but it looks good. It's going to be another B for me. Next, we are on to the Pacers. This one's just a bit too basic in my opinion. It's kind of just a P with a basketball where like the whole of the P would be, so for me it's a C. Now we are on to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I swear their logo used to be a lot cooler than this. I'm really not a huge fan of this. It just again looks a bit basic and I don't really know. I feel like it could have been done so much better. It's going to be another D tier for me. Next we are on to the Boston Celtics. And this logo just exudes personality. I don't know what it is, but when I think of the NBA, I always think of the Boston Celtics logo. It just has to be an S for me. Now onwards onto the Lakers. This is another pretty basic one, but it's got like an iconic font. Just looks quite classic, this one. I think this for me is a B tier. Now we're on to the Orlando Magic. Not huge on this, again it's a bit basic. It's got like the college sort of font. I do like the stars, they give it a bit of personality for me. I think it's a C tier. Now on to the Chicago Bulls. Obviously one of the most iconic NBA logos. Just a very angry looking red bull. I think for me personally it's an A tier. And we end on the Nets. This is a more basic one for me. I think this is going to have to go into D tier. I'm going to do a bit of shuffling around with these because I feel like some of them need to be put up a bit. So let's see what my final list looks like. Right, okay, so after some careful consideration, I have put the Atlanta Hawks into C. The more I look at this logo, I think the cleverer it becomes in my mind. I put Rockets into B. I like the creativity with this one. And I have put the Minnesota Timberwolves into A along with the Toronto Raptors. I think for me that is the complete tier list. Let me know how you would list all of these NBA logos. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, and today we will be dabbling in the world of The Legend of Zelda. Let's just get straight into it. So up first is the one that started it all, the original Legend of Zelda. I have played through this one. Obviously a lot of the older ones are a bit harder than the newer ones to play through. Not only are they harder difficulty wise, but obviously some of the mechanics make the game a bit harder to play as well than more modern titles in the series. I personally prefer this one to the second game, The Legend of Link, so I'm going to give this one a C. And I'll be giving The Legend of Link a D tier, unfortunately. I just can't get into it. I have tried to play The Legend of Link, but it's just not for me. Next up on this list is A Link to the Past. I do really enjoy this title, but I do prefer its remake / remaster type thing that would come a long way down the road. It's a solid game, I'm going to give it a B. Next I'm going to be talking Four Swords Adventures. This is honestly quite an enjoyable title in the series, I find. It's quite a creative game within the series. I'm going to give it a B. Up next on the board we have Link's Awakening. This is a super unique one. Obviously the remaster that came out a few years ago is probably a slightly better version of the game to play. But I have played the original version too, and it is just a really cool game to play. I think for me it's an A tier game. Up next I'm going to be talking about the double games, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, that sort of link together, mind the pun. For me they're both okay games, nothing too stand out. I think for me Oracle of Ages is a C and Oracle of Seasons is a B. Okay, so I've just realised that I've got a bit muddled up. So this game here is a compilation of both A Link to the Past and Four Swords Adventures. And to be honest, I didn't realise that existed, so I just haven't played that. Four Swords Adventures is this one, and it's a B for me. Next up, I wanted to talk about probably the most underrated Legend of Zelda game, which is the Minish Cap. For me, this is actually an A tier game on the GBA. For those that haven't played it, I would definitely recommend giving it a go. It's a super great addition to the Legend of Zelda franchise. Next up, I'm going to be talking about probably the two most famous titles in the Legend of Zelda series, which is Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. So straight away, Ocarina of Time for me just has to be an S tier. However, a bit of a surprising one. I'm not personally huge on Majora's Mask. I'm just not huge on the mechanics of like the whole game being timed. I don't really enjoy that. It's got a cool theming to it and things, but I think for me it's probably a C tier. Next up I'm going to talk about Spirit Tracks. It's Legend of Zelda on trains. It's certainly not a standout within the Legend of Zelda series, however, I think it's a fairly solid game in my opinion. I'm going to give it a C. After that, I'm talking Phantom Hourglass. Came out around the same time as Spirit Tracks, and I prefer this slightly better to Spirit Tracks. I think I'm going to give it a B tier. Up next, I'm talking Skyward Sword. Pretty solid addition to the games. It's a bit more colourful and lively than a lot of the games look. However, I'm just personally not huge on the control mechanics with the Wii and stuff. It's just not for me. I'm going to give it a B. Next up is Wind Waker. It's probably the best of the cutesy looking Legend of Zelda games. I do like that sense of adventure it gives you. I'm going to give it an A tier. Just a super solid addition. Next up, I'm going to talk about Twilight Princess, a darker themed Legend of Zelda game. I do enjoy this title, but probably not an S or A tier. Maybe looking around B for me. Yeah, I think B. I have never played Triforce Heroes, so that goes to the back. I think for me, A Breath of the Wild is just an incredible game in terms of just its pure exploration. It's not got the best story in the franchise at all, but I don't think you can look past giving it an S tier. And the last game I want to talk about in the series is actually A Link Between Worlds. The first time I ever played this, I really wasn't sure what to expect from the game, but I actually found myself replaying it over and over again, and I think in the end it actually became my favourite Zelda game ever. I love the idea of Link like turning himself into a painting and travelling between different worlds and things. It's just so amazing. I love the top-down perspective. I love the graphics of the game. Just, yeah, for me, it is just the best Zelda game. I'm going to give it an S tier. Let me know how you would rate the Legend of Zelda games, and that has been all from me today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.